This conference will now be recorded.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. It is me, Chef Amy, here this evening, joining you from Willamette Valley Kitchen Company in Salem, Oregon. And I am so happy to cook along with you tonight. Tonight's menu is Coctel de Camarón. This is a Mexican-style shrimp cocktail that is one of my favorite dishes to enjoy when it is really hot out. This is a nice, refreshing, cooled, tangy dish. So when it's really hot now, during these hot days of August, it's a great dish to make to help cool everyone off. It does require a little bit of cooking because we are going to cook our shrimp. But if you purchase pre-cooked shrimp, there would be no cooking whatsoever. So you could completely keep your kitchen cool if it's very, very hot out. So again, thank you so much for joining us. This is our virtual cook-along. This is our fourth cook-along, I believe, since we've switched over to virtual classes. Willamette Valley Kitchen Company is here in downtown Salem, Oregon, and we are so happy to be with you tonight. If you would like to cook along with us and post a photo of the meal that you have created, we would love, love, love to see that. And we are on social media on Facebook at Willamette Valley Kitchen Co. We are also on Instagram, and our handle is at Salem Cooks. So please do, if you decide to cook along, go ahead and snap a photo of the end result or any time in between, and I would love to see those. Definitely tag us. So let's go ahead and get started here. As I mentioned, we are making Coctel de Camarón. If you are following along at home with your recipe and your grocery list and your prep list, hopefully, really there's not a lot of prep for this dish, and it is a nice, quick, and easy dish. But one thing definitely, hopefully you have prepped is that you have cleaned, peeled, and deveined your shrimp. So I have my bowl of peeled and deveined shrimp here. The only other things I would remind you, if you are following along, is make sure that your other ingredients, especially the liquid ingredients, are just in the fridge until right before you use them. So by that, I mean your tomato juice and your clam juice and your limes. You could even keep those in the fridge, your ketchup. Just keep those all chilled, and that means that at the end, when you stir everything together, it's already nice and cold, so you don't have to wait around after you do your cooking to let the shrimp cocktail chill down. You can just eat it right away because it will be pre-chilled with all the ingredients. So let's go ahead and get started. As I mentioned here, I have a bowl of already cleaned, peeled, and deveined raw shrimp. These are probably around 20 to 25 size, which means when you see that number on your shrimp, that means the approximate number of shrimp per pound. So that's kind of a nice medium large shrimp. If you are here in Salem, Oregon, I always recommend buying your seafood, including these shrimp, at our local seafood market, Fitz Seafood. And these shrimp tonight indeed are from Fitz. They just got back from vacation, and we're happy to have them open again so we can have our weekly delicious seafood. So I have 1 pound peeled and deveined shrimp. I'm gonna go ahead and do something I like to do every time I cook shrimp, which is I do a very quick salt and baking soda brine. You only need to have it on the shrimp for about 15 minutes, so it's not anything that takes a long amount of time, but the salt is there to brine and to season your shrimp to make them nice and flavorful. But the baking soda is really the interesting thing here. We're going to put just a small amount of baking soda on these shrimp and chill them for 15 minutes, and the pH change that happens because of that just gives your shrimp a wonderful, even better texture. These delicious shrimp from Fitz already have a really nice plump texture, but doing this little trick with the baking soda makes them even plumper and juicier and just delicious when they're cooked up. So my proportions for this soda salt shrimp brine are always the same. I always do, for each pound of shrimp, I do a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, so it's not very much. We'll sprinkle that on. And then I do a 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt. All right, that's all there is to that. You can go ahead and give these a little stir or a little toss, just so that they get evenly coated with the salt and soda. And then I'm just going to stick these back in the fridge while we prepare some other ingredients. For 10 to 15 minutes is great. All right. Over here, you can see in the other camera, where's my hand? There it is. I just have a saucepan full of water. So it's a large saucepan. There's probably 2 quarts of water in there. You don't need to measure it, but just have plenty of water, and that's what we're going to use to cook our shrimp after they have brined for a few minutes. You do not want to preheat the water in your pan. So I just have it all ready to go. And I have a thermometer set up over here. Let me show you what I'm going to do. So I like to cook these shrimp so that they're just perfectly done, not overcooked. And the way that I like to do that, and this is a technique I found on SeriousEats.com, which I think works perfectly, is I use a thermometer. So I have a probe thermometer. The probe is down in the water already, all ready to go. And I'm going to set this end of the thermometer to 170. That is kind of the perfect temperature for perfectly cooked shrimp. Once your shrimp get up to 170, you can stop cooking, cool them off immediately, and they will just be perfect every time. So I have this little, this end of the probe thermometer set for 170, all ready to go. Make sure you have the alert on. I've done that a million times where I have it set for the right temperature, but I don't have the alert, so I miss when it actually gets to that temperature. So make sure the alert is on, and this is all ready to go once we start cooking our shrimp. All right, so while we're waiting a few more minutes for our shrimp to be brined, we can go ahead and prep all of our veggies. So a big difference between American style shrimp cocktail with the cocktail sauce that is based in ketchup and horseradish and maybe some kind of chili, and then you just dip your nicely poached shrimp into the cocktail sauce. With Mexican style shrimp cocktail or Coctel de Camarón, there's a lot more vegetable involved. It's almost more like a delicious, crunchy pico de gallo. So there is a red sauce, but then it's full of delicious diced vegetables. The vegetables that I like to use are white onion, and I have a 1/2 a white onion. I like to use a thin-skinned cucumber. So you could use an English cucumber or a Persian cucumbers, which are a lot smaller. If you're using an English cucumber, this is a 1/2 of one. It's all ready to go. If you were using smaller cucumbers, you could use 1 to 2, depending on the size, but you want about, you can see the size of my hand, about a hand size thin-skinned cucumber. You don't need to peel it. I like 1 stalk of celery. You might think, well, that's kind of unusual. Like, I wouldn't expect celery to be in shrimp cocktail or in Mexican food, but it's a classic ingredient in Mexican shrimp cocktail, and it gives a delicious fresh flavor. And then we also have a jalapeno. So I'm just going to go ahead and start dicing up all of these vegetables. I prefer my cocktail to be finely diced vegetables. So I aim for about 1/4 inch dice on all of my veggies. And I'm going to just cut these up quickly with my chef's knife here. But if you have some sort of other gadget that you prefer, maybe your knife skills are a little slower, that's perfectly fine too. We have these choppers that you can use that will just put your vegetables on this blade area right here and close it, and the vegetables will show up in this holder container at the bottom, all perfectly diced to even sizes. Some people ask, should I use a food processor for dicing up these vegetables? You could try it out, but I would be very careful if you are going with an electric food processor, just because you don't want to end up with a puree. You want there to be nice small pieces of all of these crunchy vegetables. So you have to be really careful when you're doing that in an electric food processor. They do make these more like manual, non-electric little food processors that are a great option. People buy these all the time for making salsa. So it'll work perfect for you right here too. And it's just like a pull cord and the blades spin around, and it doesn't go as quickly as an electric one. So you don't end up being as worried about pureeing your veggies. I'm just gonna go ahead and start chopping here real quick. So I have my half a white onion. I like to use white onion when I'm cooking various Mexican food, especially when the onion is going to be served raw. I just think it gives proper, most authentic flavor. Whenever if I'm doing, for example, a cilantro onion garnish for tacos, I definitely choose white onion versus yellow onion. If it's a dish where the onion is getting cooked, I don't think it matters as much, but with raw onions, the white ones are a little more gentle. And so they have a really good flavor for this type of thing. So as I mentioned, I am just dicing this up approximately 1/4 inch. That's all set. That was a half a large onion. I'm gonna grab, I actually have a bowl chilling in the fridge to put these ingredients in. So there's my chilled bowl. Now we can chop up our half of a English cucumber. Again, we're kind of trying to get all of the different vegetable components to be approximately the same size. So just focus on that as you're chopping. That's what you're looking for. And if you prefer your salsa to be a little more rustic, you can definitely do bigger chunks of your vegetables. It's all up to you. I like to use English cucumbers. They have a great flavor. They're very rarely bitter. Sometimes you get a standard cucumber and you cut it open and it tastes kind of unpleasantly bitter, but that doesn't happen very often with the English style cucumbers. And also, of course, I find it handy that you don't have to peel them because they have a very thin skin. So you can just chop up your cucumber, no peeling required. It actually, the skin gives this dish even a little bit more color, so that's nice. Okay. Our next vegetable is our single stalk of celery. As I mentioned, that gives excellent crunch and bright, fresh celery flavor. Those of you who love ceviche, and this dish is perhaps, I would say, certainly related to ceviche. The country where ceviche actually comes from, where it originates, is Peru. And in Peru, in a Peruvian ceviche, celery is nearly always an important and integral ingredient. So I think it's interesting to note that here, once again, we have celery in our Mexican style shrimp cocktail, and perhaps there is a bit of a connection there. I don't know that for sure. I'm just kind of thinking it could be so. All right. Our celery is diced into the bowl. Now I'm going to add in a whole jalapeno. And this is an optional kind of, you can do whatever you want with this ingredient. I generally prefer it to be seeded So I remove the seeds and the white veins from the inside. That's where the majority of the heat is in your jalapeno pepper. And I actually like my shrimp cocktail to be fairly mild, and then I add hot sauce on the bites that I want to be spicier. So that's just me. So I like to take the seeds out so it's not super spicy. If you like things that are really, really spicy, you can certainly just chop this up, seeds and all, and it will be a little more heat for you. And if you do not care for spiciness in any way, you can go ahead and completely leave this out. If you wanted a little bit of that green pepper flavor, you could certainly put in, maybe a quarter of a green bell pepper minced up. It's really up to you how spicy you want it. I'm going to show you a little trick here, and I'll try to demonstrate it, so hopefully you can see it. But here's my whole jalapeno pepper. A quick and easy little trick to get the seeds out is just to simply, while it's still whole, cut the end off. So I just cut the end off, but everything else is still whole in there. And then just stick a paring knife all the way in there. And you're just going to kind of twist it around. Just be careful. You don't want to stab through the pepper into your hand, but I just twisted this all the way around, and that loosens up all of the seeds and veins that are in there. And then you can just kind of take your paring knife out and just shake this really hard over the trash can, and all of that middle part will come out. All right. I can look into this jalapeno and see it is empty now. No more seeds. So that worked really, really well. That's a great trick for quickly seeding your jalapenos. And in this case, we're going to mince it up. So we could have gotten them out a different way, but if you ever want to make whole stuffed jalapenos, that is an excellent trick so that you end up with nice whole peppers that are cleaned out. So I'm going to go ahead and mince up our jalapeno. This is the one vegetable in here that I cut up even a little bit smaller. So if you're following along on your recipe, you'll notice that all the other ingredients say diced, but this one says minced. And that is a sign when you're reading recipes that you really want to chop it up very, very, very finely. Minced means tiny. So I do that just because I don't want, you never know how spicy your jalapeno is going to be. We've removed the seeds, so hopefully we've removed the majority of the spice, but still the flesh of it could be spicy. And I don't want anyone to get a big, huge chunk of really, really spicy pepper when they're eating. So I like it all to be finely minced, so it just adds its delicious flavor and spice throughout the dish. Okay. We're going to add a little bit of cilantro. I have my cilantro from the market here, all washed and ready to go. I look for about a half a cup of cilantro. You can add it to your taste, but I like about that much. And I am definitely chopping up all of the fine stems. I don't know if that shows up on camera. Right along with the leaves. I in no way feel it is required to remove each little leaf of your cilantro and discard the stems. The stems taste just as good as the leaves, and I would just go ahead and add them right in there. So I just kind of rolled my cilantro stems and leaves up into a little ball and just carefully slice through it to get everything nicely minced. All right. Okay, we have all of our vegetables prepped. Now we have to kind of add the saucy ingredients to this mixture. But before we do that, I actually want to go ahead and get started on cooking our marinated shrimp, or our brined shrimp. So our shrimp have been sitting in the fridge in their mixture of soda and salt, probably for about 10 minutes now. You can definitely leave them in there a little bit longer, but we want to get our shrimp cooking so we can progress along with this recipe. So let's take those shrimp out. Here they are. They should look pretty much the same as when you put them in there. Nothing really changes with the addition of that salt and soda. And I'm just going to go ahead and pour these right into our pot of water. Again, this saucepan of water is not on yet. So just add them to that room temperature pot of water. And we're going to turn that saucepan up on high. All right. And yeah, you can have it pretty much on medium high to high. It can come up to temperature very quickly here. There's nothing that's going to burn because it's a big pot of water. So you don't need to worry about having it on low or being very gentle. Just have it up on high. And again, just a reminder, I do have my, hopefully you can see that in this camera over here. I have my temperature probe down here nestled amongst the shrimp in this water. And I have the thermometer end set to 170, which is going to be the perfect temperature for getting our shrimp cooked just right. All right, let me just wipe off my cutting board real quick. Got some cilantro debris on here. And let's continue on with our cocktail sauce part of our recipe. So right now what we have in here is just, it looks like a, kind of looks like a green pico de gallo. So just a reminder, we have white onion, cucumber, celery, jalapeno, and cilantro. Let's add our liquids. So our, with 4 liquids going in, we have lime juice, tomato juice, clam juice. Maybe that was unexpected for you all. And we have a little bit of ketchup. Let me grab a measuring cup. Okay, so first things first, we're going to squeeze some lime juice, and we want about a 1/4 cup of fresh lime juice. These look like pretty big, juicy limes. I'm going to cut 2 of them and see what we end up with. We may only need 3 out of the 4 of these halves to get to a 1/4 cup. Go ahead and squeeze your lime juice in. I am using one of these cool metal lemon and lime juice squeezers that work so very well. These are a must if you like to make margaritas with fresh citrus juice. Oh, wow. All right. So this lime was so juicy that I got a 1/4 cup of juice just from 1 lime. So we are good to go there, folks. If you had already cut up your second lime, don't worry about it because we will use little lime wedges for garnish later on. So just set those aside. All right, here's a little trick for you. So I have a 1/4 cup of lime juice in my measuring cup. If you're following along on your recipe, you'll see a couple ingredients down the list. We have our ketchup. Now, you know, ketchup is kind of like a thick liquid ingredient. So when you're measuring it, it tends to cling to the measuring container and you have to use a spatula and get it all scraped out of there just because it's thicker, right? However, if you measure your ketchup on top of where you have already measured your lime juice, so we have liquid in here, lime juice, we're going to add our ketchup in, and we want a 1/4 cup of ketchup also. So I'm going to squirt this ketchup in until the entire level in the measuring cup equals a 1/2 cup. And because I already have liquid lime juice in here, it will very easily just dump out into the measuring bowl, and I mean the mixing bowl, and I won't have the problem of having ketchup clinging to the side of the measuring cup. So just a handy little trick. if you're ever measuring ketchup or something else sticky along with another liquid ingredient, you can use that and it really helps. All right, I'm just gonna squeeze in my ketchup. I'm looking at the side of the jar, so that's why I'm looking down here so weirdly. Oh, excuse me, made a funny noise. There is our 1/4 cup of ketchup. I'm just gonna grab a little fork and stir that up. And add that into our bowl. So you can see we did not have the problem of ketchup clinging to the glass since I measured it that way. Next, we have a can of tomato juice. You want 12 ounces, and luckily enough, a can of Campbell's tomato juice is 12 ounces. You can also use V8 if you prefer a little bit of a different vegetable flavor in here. Either one tastes great, I think. So there's our 12 ounces of tomato juice. And now the ingredient perhaps you were not expecting, clam juice. So this is bottled clam juice. It comes in an 8-ounce jar generally. We only need half of that for this recipe. This particular jar, I had already used half of it a previous time that I made this. So I'm just going to pour the rest of this in here and it will be the perfect amount. So let's talk about this clam juice for a second. It adds kind of a smooth savoriness and a little bit of saltiness to this dish. And it just gives it just the right flavor, just something a little special. You may be familiar with the product at the grocery store called Clamato. And Clamato is also a very popular juice to put in when you're making Coctel de Camarón. I prefer personally to just go with the tomato juice and clam juice rather than Clamato. And the reason for me is that Clamato is a lot sweeter to my taste buds. So I prefer to use the two products separately rather than the Clamato. Clamato has like a little bit of corn syrup in it, so it's definitely a sweeter taste than these two separate. But like I said, it is very popular and common to see Clamato used in many recipes for this dish. So if you like things a little sweeter, you might very well enjoy Clamato. Another, I think, really funny and interesting liquid ingredient that you sometimes see in Mexican shrimp cocktail, it's not in mine, but you do see it sometimes if you're looking up other recipes, is orange soda, like Orange Crush. Sometimes you'll see, maybe a 1/4 cup of orange soda in the shrimp cocktail. And I don't do that. It's another thing that is a little too sweet for my taste buds, but very common ingredient. I'm gonna just set these aside. We are just about done with our cocktail sauce mixture. We just need to season it with salt and pepper. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. There's our kosher salt and freshly cracked black pepper. I'm keeping an eye on the shrimp over here to my left, and I could definitely see them noticeably starting to turn pink. Hopefully you can see that on the camera as well. When I check my thermometer, it says it's at 149 right now, so it's definitely getting there, but not quite there yet. Reminder, we are looking for 170 here. I do give these shrimp a stir 1 or 2 times during cooking, just to make sure that they are not getting overcooked on the bottom of the pan while the ones on the top stay less cooked. So I like to give them a little stir, like so. And yeah, those shrimp they're getting there quickly. So they just have maybe 15 degrees more to go and they will be done. I have stirred up that salt and pepper that we added, and I'm gonna move this under the stove camera so you can see how it looks right now. It basically looks like a super delicious, really vegetable-y, chunky salsa. Hopefully you can see that well. So if you're following along at home, that's what you should have in your bowl at this point. Give that one more stir, and I'm going to stick this in the fridge just to chill until we're ready to eat. All right. We have just a couple garnishes to make here as our shrimp are getting done. So as I mentioned, if you cut up some lime and you ended up not needing quite all of it, don't worry, because you can just cut that lime. I cut each half into quarters, and then you end up with these little 1/8 lime wedges, which are what I like to serve. Sorry, that's so loud. Our thermometer has reached 170. I'm going to give it one more stir just to make sure it actually is accurately at 170. And see, actually, when I stirred that, it went down just a couple of degrees, down to 167. So now let's just wait maybe 30 more seconds, and I bet it will come back up to actually be 170. That probably happens just because the thermometer probe is resting on the bottom of the pan. So once you stir it and lift that probe up, it reads slightly lower. But these are going to be done any second. I have a strainer here next to the stove and a bowl for the finished shrimp. That's all ready to go. So as soon as these beep one more time, I will strain them and chill them. I just chill them down by running them under cold water. And I feel like that's all that's really necessary. You could get an ice bath ready if you want to, but I don't think you really need to do that. Cold water is plenty sufficient. Okay, so here's my little bowl of lime wedges. That's one of our garnishes. We also want some avocado. Make sure you have a nice ripe avocado. It's going to be so delicious. Okay, this is definitely at 170 now, and these shrimp look just perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and remove them from the heat. I'm going to strain them, and I'm going to run them under cold water. You guys, these shrimp look so good. They are perfectly cooked. Nice and plump and juicy and bright pink. I'll show you what they look like in just a second as soon as they're cooled off. All right, meanwhile, we were here getting our avocado ready. So I usually just do this with a knife, and my preference is I generally dice the avocado into cubes. You can also slice it and then fan out the slices and put that on the top of each person's portion. It's kind of up to you. The slices probably look a little fancier, but I find the dices are easier to serve and eat. So I usually go with the dices because I like to eat. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut my avocado in half over here. Hopefully it'll be a good one. Isn't it always so disappointing when you think you have a good avocado and then you open it up and it's all weird? I hate it when that happens. This looks like a perfect avocado. Yum. I'm just going to use my knife, but we do have awesome avocado tools here. They are one of our most popular items, actually. And you can use the knife end to cut your avocado in half. You can use this interesting middle part. It grabs the pit for you and you just twist it and it pulls the pit out. And then you can use this end to just scoop through the avocado and it slices it for you. So that is a great option if you're a little nervous about doing this with a knife. I have the pit here on this side and I'm just going to gently but firmly, that doesn't even make any sense. Gently but firmly, I'm going with that. I'm going to get the pit out with my knife. So just give it a little stab and then carefully remove the pit from your knife blade. One of the only times I've ever cut myself in a class, in a live class, was taking the pit off of my knife. What a silly thing to cut yourself doing, but It's true. I did do that one time, so I always make sure I'm really careful. All right, I'm just gently running the tip of my knife through the avocado flesh in a crosshatch pattern so that I'll end up with nice dices of avocado. Like so. I'm going to try to show this on camera, but I'm not sure if it's going to show up. Can you see that that is crosshatched if I wiggle it around a little bit? I don't know if it's showing very well, but it is crosshatched, trust me. And then you just need a spoon. And you just scoop through the entire avocado flesh in one swoop. And all of the dices come out just perfectly for you. Like so. So now we have our nice bowl of diced avocado. There we are. All right. One other thing that I like to offer my guests as a garnish when I am serving this dish is just your favorite Mexican hot sauce. At our house, we use Valentina. This is Valentina extra hot. We normally use Valentina regular hot, but we have this bottle here at the store. So we're gonna be extra spicy tonight. And that is all ready to go. I'm gonna check on the shrimp and make sure they're cool. Here are our beautifully cooked shrimp. A nice way to tell that shrimp are perfectly done is that they're pink and they're bright pink on the outside, they're opaque all the way through, and they have curled, but they've just curled into a C. I should turn that around for the camera. A C. There we go. If they curl all the way up into a little circle, that is a good sign you have overcooked your shrimp. So if you see them looking like a C, that is perfect. Of course, these ones are perfect because we cook them to 170 degrees, which is the optimum temperature for shrimp. I'm going to go ahead and cut these into bite-sized pieces. Since these are big shrimp, I like to cut them into 3 pieces each. And that way, when I'm eating my shrimp cocktail, I can scoop it onto my chips or my crackers and have the actual pieces of shrimp be on the cracker. If you prefer, you could leave your shrimp whole and like hang them on the edge around the sauce, or you could stir them whole into the sauce. But then honestly, it just makes it looks fancy, but it makes it a little harder to eat. So I like to cut them into bite-sized pieces. We'll just cut up a few of these so that I can show you what the final presentation looks like, because folks, we are pretty much all done here. This dish is quick and easy, like I said. This is probably our shortest virtual cooking class to date. I did have a question. Someone asked, how come you cook your shrimp at home instead of buying cooked shrimp? You can buy cooked shrimp, right? You can buy them thawed, you can buy them frozen, and they're all ready to go. And you can definitely do that. And as I mentioned at the beginning of class, if it is so hot that you can't even bear the thought of turning on a saucepan of water, which I understand, sometimes it is actually that hot, go ahead and buy a pre-cooked shrimp. You can even use bay shrimp in this recipe if you like. That's totally another option, and there's nothing to do at all. But I do like, if I have the option and I have the time, I do prefer to cook my shrimp at home. It's just because I feel like I do a better job of cooking shrimp. Maybe I'm egotistical, but I like my own shrimp. I think I cook them really well and I want them to be perfect. So that's why I normally cook my shrimp at home. One other thing I wanted to mention is if you do have a little extra time to prepare this dish, there is one other option that you can do instead of the clam juice, and that is you could make your own shrimp broth and you would have a zero waste dish. So what you would do if you want to do that is you would peel your shrimp when you're cleaning them, obviously peel them off and reserve those shells. Don't reserve the veins, you want to discard the veins, but keep the shells and just put them in a little pot of water and cook them for like 20 to 30 minutes. And you will end up with a very flavorful, very tasty shrimp broth. And you can use that instead of clam juice. The only thing is that it takes a little longer because you have to cook the shrimp shells 20, 30 minutes, and then you have to completely cool down that shrimp broth before you use it. So it takes a little longer than I wanted to do in this class, but it is a great option, and it means that there is no waste at all. You're using every single bit of those shrimps, including the shells. All right, let's talk about what we serve this with. I'm going to go ahead and start preparing a plate of this. So obviously I would be chopping up all of the shrimp, but for now I'm just gonna stir this little handful in here so you can see what it looks like. And I'm just stirring those shrimp in to our cocktail sauce. It's always a good idea to go ahead and taste it at this point. I feel 100% confident this one tastes perfect because I have made this recipe probably 30 times. And I love it, and I know that it's just right. But always go ahead and taste your mixture at this point, and make sure it tastes right to you, that it has the right amount of salt and pepper. Maybe you want a little more lime, although don't forget we're using limes as a garnish, so you can add more lime at the table if you want to. But just taste it, check it out, see what you think. If you have a kind of a festive glass or goblet, such as this one. This is a margarita glass. That's a great option when you're serving this if you're having a little party, having some people over. It just looks really fun in one of these type of glasses, but if you don't have those, no worries, just put it in a cute bowl. But I'm just going to go ahead and spoon this delicious mixture into my goblet. Make sure you get all the veggies, and then make sure you definitely get some of the red sauce, the liquidy soft part, so that everyone's getting all of the good stuff. Like so. We can garnish this on top with a little bit of delicious fresh avocado, and this is so nice. This dish is very tangy and limey, and then the avocado is rich and buttery, and it just tastes so good together with that. If you want to, you could put a little piece of lime on there as well. And then what do we serve this with? Let me wash my hands. There are just some different options, and I'll tell you my favorite. My favorite is soda crackers, saltine style crackers. So that's what I always do, and that is absolutely authentic. If you go to Mexico, you will find this served with saltine style crackers very commonly. So I just love that. I think that, I don't know, they're a little less fatty and a little less salty than tortilla chips. So I just think they taste really good. They're very, like, I don't want to say bland, but they are a nice bland base for this extremely flavorful shrimp cocktail that we have created here. Other options, you can definitely do tortilla chips, but again, I find them to be a little salty with this mixture. If you wanted a corn product that was less salty, get the flat round tostada shells at the grocery store that are by the tortillas. And those are basically like corn chips without any salt, and they're nice and crunchy. So that's another great option. You can just break them apart and make your own kind of unsalted chips. So here is our finished product. I'm going to put it over under this other camera once again so you can see it up close. There we go. I'm going to get it right in the right spot. So there is our delicious Mexican shrimp cocktail, Coctel de Camarón, served with delicious ripe avocado, a little bit of lime, and some saltine crackers. All right. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. You have been cooking along with Chef Amy from Willamette Valley Kitchen Company, and I hope you all enjoyed it, and I hope you are all ready to eat a delicious dinner. Thank you again, and have a good night. Happy cooking.